So it's 6:28, Saida.
We're starting at 6:30, right?
Yeah, 2 more minutes. I don't see David on the
Okay.
list. Is he here yet?
Yeah,
Is
I don't
David
see,
on?
he's not here yet, no.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I have 6:29.
We still don't see David as yet.
Okay, well, we'll start anyway.
Okay.
Okay. $6.29.
Okay, it's 6:30, Jane.
Okay, thank you, Saida. Good evening. This is the June meeting of the Landmarks Committee of Community Board 8. We are here for 3 resolutions, 3 applications. We will hear from the applicant, then go to the public, then go to our committee to formulate a resolution, which will be presented to our full board on this coming Wednesday evening at another Zoom meeting. Saida Harrigan is going to handle the technical side, the technological side of our meeting tonight. So with that, she will say a few words about how to access if you want to say something or anyway, go ahead, Saida.
Thanks, Jane. Good evening, everyone. A few notes for you, particularly if this is your first meeting with us. You'll notice that you're muted and unable to mute yourself. After each presenter, the co-chairs will call on members of the public who wish to speak. You can ask to be recognized by raising your virtual hand. You can do that by going to the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and selecting raise hand. It's important not to raise your physical hands or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you among the participants. If you're on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute. Once you are recognized by the co-chair, I will unmute you and you may be prompted to confirm unmuting on your device. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you can access the raise hand feature by clicking the participants button on the menu at the bottom of your screen and selecting raise hand. The chat function is available for technical support only, not to ask questions of the co-chairs. You can send a chat to me if you're having any trouble and I can walk you through any issues you may be having. And with that, I will pass the mic back to you, Jane.
Thank you. With that, we're going to get started. The first application is 1022 Lexington Avenue, the Upper East Side Historic District Extension. Theodore Bodnar, architect. Is he here? Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is. You can confirm unmuting.
This is an application for a first floor facade redesign and infill at the upper 2 floors. The Landmarks Committee heard a resolution from the applicant, a previous resolution or previous application in October 2020. The applicant has a new tenant in the space and is coming back to us with a new proposal. So with that, the applicant may get started.
Good evening, Chairman Goodall and members of the Community Board 8 Landmarks Committee. I am Theodore Bodnar. I am the architect for the project. As mentioned earlier, we had previously applied for a renovation of the facade at the 1st, 2nd floors and minor changes at the 3rd and 4th floors for restoration purposes. We were given granted approval for that resolution. We were actually asked what kind of a tenant we were going to be having at that point. We did not know the type of tenant. Since that time, we have received a new tenant. This will be a restaurant. And we had actually been asked previously during the October meeting, if it were a restaurant, would we want full height doors? We did not want them at that point. But one of the items being requested at this meeting is for full height glass doors that can be opened like the typical restaurants are doing nowadays in order to get access for their sidewalk cafes, sidewalk street service, and to their street outdoor eating areas. John Reyes from my office is on the call also, and if it would be possible for him to be able to share screen, that would be helpful.
Very good. I think, Saida, can you arrange that, the screen share?
Absolutely. You should be able to do it.
Okay.
Mhm.
He is on. There we go. So our cover page is pretty much the same, but if you look at the top left of the plot plan area, you'll see that we have highlighted in red the exterior sides of the storefronts along Lexington Avenue and East 73rd Street. And we have a minor infill of about 17 by 20 feet at the third and fourth floor levels. That would be considered the rear or the western portion of East 73rd Street. Page 2 is essentially just the landmarks preservation designation report. Page 3 of the presentation is the previous approval, which was granted to us. And then going on to page 4, we've highlighted the sections which we are requesting for change under this resolution, under this meeting. So the first floor area at Lexington Avenue and East 73rd Street is highlighted here. The following page will show the street side, I believe, a little bit better. There we go. And it also shows the infill section at the third and fourth floors in the rear. The following screen has a bunch of updated, up-close photographs of the existing facade elements, which are not actually, with the exception of the top right photograph, picture 8, which is a storefront portion that exists at the first floor, which had been previously approved for a change modification anyway. We just provided these just so you have them as a reference point. The following page 7 also has additional photographs showing the facade elements. The Farrow and Ball store on picture 19 is the store that is going to be vacating, and that's why we're asking for the restaurant tenant will be taking the full space all the way from Lexington Avenue all the way along 73rd, 73rd
How many
Street.
feet is that?
Let me see if I can pull it up in the plot plan. That will come up to about 80 feet. In reality, it's probably closer to about 70 feet in length of restaurant space.
Thank you.
Sure. The following photo shows buildings along Lexington Avenue. The following drawing shows photos along Lexington Avenue. And some of these photos do show pictures of actually on this block, on this very same block, 1012, 1014, and 1016 with full height glass on their storefronts. Picture 25 shows 1016 Lexington Avenue, which is a fully glass and openable storefront. So there is precedent for this type of storefront on this block and on this street. On page 9, we have the demolition drawing that was approved previously. On page 10, we have the storefront that was approved previously, just so everybody can get a visual and remember what was approved previously. We did have the widths of the glass that would be aligning with the glass from up above. And under this proposal, we are going to be asking to drop the glass down to the bottom and for it to be sliding or operable glass so that we can use it for the restaurant tenant. John, if you can go to the next slide, please. This is the drawing showing the glass going down the full height so we can get operable windows and glass for restaurant service. That way they'll be able to have the tables up against the building line. The tables up against the curb line and or have the street eating facilities at the exterior. And this will permit maximum service and maximum light and air for the restaurant space. It's a thin space. It's only 17 feet in width, the building, so it is relatively thin in that manner. If you also look at the top right side of the screen, you'll see the minor infill at the very top. It's about a 10-foot by 17-foot section that's being infilled at the top. We did differentiate it slightly per Landmark's guidance to us. The brick is a painted brick for the general building facade. For this portion, the windows will be relatively close in flavor to what's existing, but the finish around the windows will be a stucco as opposed to brick that's a painted brick. But the color will match the color of the existing facade. So there'll be a blend in with the building, but enough to differentiate the fact to see that it's an addition at this point.
That's above the Farrow and Ball store that's closing?
Correct. The very western corner of it. That's right. Yes. The following drawing shows in highlight sections. Drawing 12 shows the two infill sections at the 3rd and 4th floors. Obviously, the roof it'll be a roof section also. And then if we go to the 1st floor, which is the top right portion of the drawing, it shows the new glass elements with the extensions. The widths of the portals of glass themselves did not change, but we are shifting the entry point over towards the western side of the building. And we are providing opening doors at the Lexington East 73rd Street side closest to Lexington. And we do have
one sec. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm a little confused.
It's quite all right.
You're moving the entry from the previously approved application?
Correct. It was previously in the bay, which was slightly more towards the east. And we're shifting it over a little bit further west under this proposal. The doors and the elements themselves will be the same, but it will be shifted slightly over to the west. And we will be retaining the residential door with the metal work that was on it, the old wrought iron work that was on it, as was requested from us previously. And the final page of the drawing set shows the details for the storefront coming down and showing how they would be operable and opening.
Couple of questions before.
Yes, please.
How many windows on East 73rd and how many on Lex? Are you changing to the dropping down to the floor level?
On Lexington Avenue, there's that full block bay. So those would be 5 sliding windows. John, if you can go to page 11, please. There we go. So it'll be 5 windows, and that's the same opening width that was approved previously.
Right.
On East 73rd Street, the same windows at the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th bays were the same, but the glass is being shifted over to one additional bay, which is the 5th bay for the store entry. And then the residential entry is where the old Farrow and Ball entry in glass was before.
Okay, so I'm looking at the drawing. I see the glass doors, the new entry doors, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 bays going across.
Correct.
And then the entrance to the residential.
Right.
Is that
correct?
Right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we aligned the glass to be under glass in this particular case. And again, once the windows in what would be the westernmost existing section of the building, once the glass stopped there, we made that the entry point for the commercial. And then the final bay was where the glass was for the Farrow and Ball entry, and that's the residential entry to the building right now. The last
So you've
doorway.
changed, is that true? You've changed the entrance. Previously, the entrance to the residential was on Lexington?
It was originally it was on Lexington, but under a previous approval, we had moved it to East 73rd Street.
Okay. Thank
Right.
you.
Right.
Thank you. Got it.
Right. And we did, like I said, we did retain that wrought iron door, which was what you asked us to preserve and save as a architectural element for this design.
So is that your application?
Correct, it is.
Thank you. So it's the infill above the old Ferrum Ball store that's been vacated, and all the glass bays, and changing the location of the entry door, moving it a little bit to the west.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
The biggest reason for asking for the glass doors to be dropped to the street level is it will be a restaurant tenant. And of course, he would like to maximize his ability to have the outdoor cafes, especially based on the fact that Mayor de Blasio has said he will be extending those through this year, easily through next year, and it will probably be a summer, spring, fall program. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone from the public who wants to speak to the application? I'm assuming
I
no
don't
raised
see any
hands.
raised hands. Correct.
Okay.
Just
so
as a
we'll
reminder,
move-
you can go to the, oh, sorry, Jane.
That's okay. Did you see any raised hands?
No.
Okay. So we can go to the committee, and you might as well start in alphabetical order, Saida.
Okay. Elizabeth, confirm unmuting.
Yes. I understand what you ask for. It's nice to open the doors of a restaurant. I'm not a fan of glass that goes one after the other to the floor level. And as this is on working into the residential side of the proposal, I would have preferred divided lights. I'll give some thought to this, but I can't say I particularly like it.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay. Gail, confirm unmuting.
Thank you. I share some of Elizabeth's thoughts, in as much as 70 feet of glass that goes straight down like that might be a little much, but I also appreciate that for a restaurant, it's obviously makes more sense from an operational vantage point. Regarding the infill, what are the dimensions?
Give me a second. Let me get the
Sure.
plot plan out. I apologize. I'm working off a small set of drawings. They are 17 in depth by 14 in width. So the section you're looking at now at the top right would be 14 feet across
Okay.
and 17 feet deep, which is the building depth.
I'm curious, because it's not that large a space, why you chose to go with stucco versus bricking it over and having it all painted the same color.
You know, when we spoke to Landmarks, they said that typically they don't have a problem with the extension being done, but they do want us to differentiate in some manner that there's an addition versus as opposed to have it look as if it's part of the original construction. So that was our reasoning to give that kind of a differential between the two sections. So there would be it would still blend in somehow, but enough for it to be different looking from the rest of the building.
So the stucco would basically be the same color as the paint on the bricks, or a different?
Same color as the paint on the bricks, but a different material. So there would be a differentiation that would be visible.
Okay. Thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Michelle, confirm unmuting.
Yeah, thank you. I apologize for missing the very beginning of this. I had a lot of difficulty getting on technically today. So I do have a few questions which you might have already addressed, but I'll stay on what Gail just brought up, and that's the infill. When you say the infill, I missed this. How high are you going? Are you going to the height of the building, to the third story?
Correct.
Or,
We're matching the height of the existing building. That's right.
okay. Well, the business of whether or not it should be the same material when there's a new addition, architects and preservationists and people disagree about that. I happen to firmly disagree with Landmarks on this decision. I think it would be far more
two of us.
attractive.
That
That
makes
makes two of us, yeah.
Right.
Well, I really think it should be brick all the way up. I think that's going to look like a real piece of patchwork, and I really would oppose it almost on those grounds. Now, are there going to be windows in that infill?
Yes, there are. The drawing you're looking at now, drawing page 11, is showing the new windows that will be aligned with the existing windows.
Right. Okay. It looks like we're looking behind it. And what is the purpose of that? Is that restaurant also?
No. That's part of the residential apartments up above. That'll be an extra sleeping room.
Oh, okay. So you're not just dealing with the storefront with this, you're dealing with the rest of the building as well.
Correct. Right. Those upper two floors in the back there.
Okay. Are you changing Lexington Avenue at all from the last presentation?
Only in that we're dropping the glass doors down to the street level. We previously had a 16-inch bulkhead of brick at the bottom. But given the fact that they would like to open up, obviously, for a restaurant for service on Lexington, they would like to have the sliding glass doors down to the bottom. So that's the only change at the first floor level, is dropping the glass to the street level.
Can you put that slide up so I can see how many bays there are?
Sure. John,
The
can you go back
Lexington
one, please?
Avenue side, if you don't mind.
There you go. Yeah. It was 5 pieces of glass before. It'll remain 5 pieces of glass.
I see. And the entrance to the restaurant is now going to be on 73rd Street?
It was previously on 73rd. However, we're moving it closer to the Lexington Avenue side. So that first bay that you see. Yep, right there. That's where the new glass doors will be for the restaurant. And
Point that out again. Oh, I see. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that'll
you've got
be
his
the
hand on it
entryway.
there. Correct. And there
And
will
then
be
where
your-
we're looking at the door now next to Barrow and Ball, that's going to be window.
That's going to be window with the door. That will be the secondary means of egress for the restaurant right there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
To the
So
left
it's
of the-
all glass on 73rd and on Lexington,
Correct.
all
With the
cut
exception of
down
those,
to street level.
right. With the exception of those columns, which match and align with the brick up above.
Okay. I have to say, although the amount of glass is troubling to me, I could sort of go along with it because it's on 73rd and on Lexington. So there's sort of a continuity there. But the infill going up 2 additional stories and about 14 by 17 being of stucco is going to look like a horrendous patch. And I would actually vote against it on those grounds. Are you saying that that was a requirement of Landmarks? You couldn't.
It was
if
not a
this board-
requirement. My apologies.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to just clarify. If this board wanted it or recommended that it be all the same material, all brick, would Landmarks then oppose the application? Is that what you're saying?
They didn't say they would be opposed to it. They said typically when their commissioners review their presentations, they like there to be some kind of differentiation, either material in look, and that's why they recommended that we propose something that would be slightly different. This is what we came up with. I would not be opposed at all to it being brick and being painted the same color. If that's what your commission decides, I would have no problem with that.
Okay, I don't know how others feel about it, but I would feel pretty strongly about that. I think this is going to look like a big patch. Okay, thank you for your clarification. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Alita, confirm unmuting.
Thank you. So are all of the doors on 73rd Street are they intended to open out to the sidewalk?
The 2 doors at the closest to the corner and the 1 door farthest to the right would be opening out to the sidewalk. The others would be folding or sliding doors that would open up.
Okay, so all of the doors are somehow openable.
Operable, correct. That's right.
Thank you. That's a better word. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I have some problems with that because people live above and people live across the street. And I know this is not the right venue for it, but it will be a lot noisier with all of the doors open. And that concerns me. And I do support restaurants. I support them a lot. I also don't like the solid plate glass. I agree with Elizabeth that they should be divided lights because it looks like they don't really go. And they may look more like they go if they were divided in some way or meant to go along better with the rest of the building. And I imagine there is a way to design them so that they fit with the historical look of the building and the neighborhood and yet are serve the restaurant's needs. So I could not vote in favor of these glass doors. And I agree completely with Michelle that it looks, and combined with the glass doors and the stucco, it looks more like a hodgepodge than something that is continuous. And I recognize that you are in an odd position and you did your best to comply with what Landmarks wants with respect to the exterior. But I also think that there might be better ways of differentiating it than just using stucco and making it look like it is a big patch on the building. So thank you.
Anthony, confirm a meeting.
Yes, thank you. I have a question, and I'm sorry if I missed it and you sort of explained it, but what's the proposed use of the second floor? First floor is now all restaurant. So what's going to happen on the
second floor? Would be restaurant also. It would be a two-floor restaurant.
Okay, so the same place. All right, thanks. I really agree with Michelle on the stucco. And I would, in fact, have opted to do something different with the windows. Perhaps made them bigger, more like the ones, maybe the size of the ones on the upper floors on Lexington. I'm not suggesting anything in particular. It's just that that as a way of differentiating it from the rest of that side. Because I do think, I think it should all be brick. It's silly. And the commissioners are silly if they really think that. I don't mind so much, or I don't mind so much on reflection, no pun intended, that the glass goes all the way down to the sidewalk. I agree with Alita that there are larger issues of restaurant uses and sidewalks that the full board has to grapple with in the next month. And I also agree with Elizabeth that if in fact the second floor is the same occupant as the first floor, then it makes sense to try and make those windows, if nothing else, try and make those windows feel more alike. And right now there's a kind of disembodied quality to this building second floor up. And then there's just one other thing about it is that it's
so that's what was approved. That was approved previously, and we had large. Okay. So we actually did split it up a little bit. Okay.
I'm just looking at what you're proposing now. And the other thing, though, hold on to this slide, is that one of the things about the building as it exists in space today is that there is a certain sense of it, and this is sort of contradictory, but there's a certain sense of it as having been assembled. There are bits and pieces of it, of the facades that have changed over time, and it currently bears the scars of the change. The two tall windows, you can't see me pointing, the two tall windows that currently have some kind of sign in between them feels like a kind of a remnant of a much earlier building use. And there's something actually kind of charming about that it's not as if it's all new or fake old. I think I would have to vote in opposition to this for the sort of assembly of Alita, Elizabeth, and Michelle's comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jane, we have a raised hand from the member of the public. Would you like to pause to go to them, or?
Why don't we pause? Yes, thank you, Saida.
Okay. Colin, confirm unmuting.
Great. Thank you. I just have 2 quick questions just for clarification. You
Could
mentioned
you identify where you live and state your name?
my name's Colin Duran. I live in South Orange, New Jersey. I just was curious. You mentioned that the windows on the first floor would be operable. Would the windows on the second floor also be operable, or no?
The windows at the second floor are not operable as is, and they will not be operable.
Okay, thank you. And just one other question. So the first 2 floors are going to be for restaurant usage, and the second 2 floors, are they both for residential purposes?
That is correct. Yes.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, Saida, we can
Okay.
return to the community board.
Okay. May, confirm unmuting. May? Okay.
Maybe we could come back to May, Saida.
Okay, we'll go to Marco. Confirm unmuting, Marco.
Yes, thank you, Saida. Thank you,
Mhm.
Jane. I think we have to clarify one point. There is no precedent on the street to have so much glass. You can have whatever you want on Lexington Avenue, maintain continuity on that avenue. But we prefer, or always we has been preferring, on the residential to be more quiet, less glass, more with the tendency to have a residential district. With respect to the infill, you're right, and Landmark is right that you have to differentiate between what it was and what you propose. Now, if you propose something wrong, that is your problem. But my recommendation is that is your obligation to determine which one of the material is correct over there. And our judgment is according to what you propose. We don't design anything for you. You are the designer, you make the decisions, and we make an assessment according to what you presented to us. So the issue is right now the infill. Yes, you replace the materials, but you maintain continuity with the windows, which basically I find that no consistency with the existing building. And second, there are too much glass on the street. I think is excessive, and I think you have to start thinking how to operate better. If you are planning to work in the direction of Mr. de Blasio, I think it's wrong, and you shouldn't go in that direction. We support business. Yes, we can do whatever they want, whatever we can do for the business, because business is very important to bring back to our community. However, our judgment in this case is just only the landmark value of this property. And thank you.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you. Christina, confirm unmuting. Just a reminder, it's *6.
Thank you. I, Jane, am opposed to this application for a few reasons. I mean, now that it's extending to Farrell and Ball, and it's going to be continuous glass that is open, they didn't show a streetscape of 73rd and the rest of the residential street, which is, it's a quiet street. And when you think of the execution of this, of tables all along there, and then I believe he said there were going to be tables at the curb as well. Is that correct?
I don't know what they're going to propose, but given what the, how would you call it, allowances are right now for restaurant space or eating and drinking establishments, that is what they do allow those businesses to do.
No, I understand that.
Oh.
No,
I think that's
so
a
we have
possibility.
tables along the thing, and then we have the tree beds. I mean, I'm very familiar with this with Carnegie
Right,
Hill and all the
right.
restaurants. So that the waiters in this, it's 70 feet along there, are going to be constantly walking back and forth with food, back and forth, so that the street doesn't become a residential street. You can't even get through if that whole length is all glass, Have the neighbors been informed now that you're going into Farrell and Ball, and particularly the neighbors upstairs who live there? Have they been informed?
We do not have tenants in our building anymore. They vacated, so they're not present anymore. We did put the notifications up throughout the neighborhood, as we were required to.
Well, it's just an execution. It's too much for a residential street, and it just when that happens, then there's no room for people. There's no room for the trees. There's no room for the garbage. There's no room for strollers.
Mm-hmm.
And so and then the solid pane of glass, it just doesn't fit the neighborhood. It's not appropriate, and I would vote against it.
Thank
you,
you.
Christine.
Kimberly, confirm unmuting.
Yep, thank you. Just to echo what my colleagues here have said, and keeping this on the actual design. And I mean, I hear the concerns that Christina just raised about the logistics of running a restaurant with this sort of a layout. But just in keeping with, I think what Marco had said earlier, there's just no precedent for this much glass on Lexington Avenue, or sorry, not Lexington, 73rd Street. So I'm inclined to disapprove this.
Thank you,
Thank
Kimberly.
you. David.
Well, I may be a minority of one, but I have no problem with the ground floor. I think that one of the big things we talked about last time was proportioning of these openings, and the difference between windows going down with a 16-inch base and windows going all the way down, I don't think is that different. And I've been, looking at this, decide whether I was comfortable with it or not. And I'm comfortable with the overall composition, forgetting the addition for the moment. It's, buildings evolve over time. And just like last time, we had the divided lights on the second floor, and we had essentially large panes of glass on the ground floor. This time we have the divided lights, and we still have large areas of glass. But sometimes these large areas of glass will be totally open. I don't have a problem with the restaurant operating. First of all, if the tables are only 17 feet deep, I'm not worried about the waiters and the waitresses getting through. If they meet the code requirements for table placement, there will be enough room for the waiters to move through. Not only that, if they're intelligent about how they run their restaurant, they'll make sure that that's possible. I don't know whether we're talking about something that's in the street, like so many of the restaurants, or whether we're talking about a sidewalk cafe. But the sidewalk cafe would have to be a totally separate application. We don't see that here, and I think that could be very difficult to do on 73rd Street. On the other hand, if the mayor is willing to give up some more parking spaces, I could certainly see tables in the street, as so many other restaurants have done. And whether they did that or not, the idea of the doors being open, nice weather, I think could be a nice feature of the restaurant. One of the things we're taught in architectural school is that form follows function, but it's not always the case. I'm looking at the overall composition, and I don't have a problem with the idea that as buildings evolve over time, these divided lights on the second floor are sort of evocative of what the building might have been at one time. But we've also learned, I think, that we had 1/1 from the beginning on those windows. So it's possible that the history of this building might be a very strange one in terms of the kinds of combinations they've done with large lights of glass, divided lights of glass. So to summarize, I think that the overall composition, the proportioning, and the glass on the ground floor are all fine. As far as the addition goes, I know that Landmarks is, it's become a religion with them, this business of differentiating. And I think you really had two choices. One choice would be not to differentiate. And I don't have a problem with that. Sometimes it's appropriate. I don't think it's enough addition to warrant feeling that you must make that differentiation. On the other hand, if Landmarks really wants you to make a differentiation, you have other clues that you could pick up from this building, including something that might be related more to the large areas of glass rather than just trying to replicate what's there in the wrong way. So I think you could have done a little bit more in the way of investigating some options for that corner. And I think Landmarks forced you into something that you're not comfortable with, if I heard you correctly, and I don't think we're comfortable with. So I don't think I want to see two window bays of painted stucco to match the brick. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb. I think you ought to push with Landmarks, either just extending it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it after all. I come back to this all the time. They certainly didn't object to the Jewish Museum extension, where we had a little bit of applied archaeology to say that it's okay to make it look as if it was originally with a facade twice as wide. So I can't see why Landmark should have a real problem with two window bays not being done in, not being done in brick. So my recommendation would be to force the issue on extending the language of the building or doing something totally different. So I don't know if we're going to divide this in two or not. If we divide it two, then I'll be opposed to the extension. If we leave it as one vote, I will approve it, because I think that on balance, what you've done on the base of the building is just fine.
Thank you, David.
Jane, we have a raised hand from Elizabeth.
Maybe I'll just make my comment first, Saida, before we go back to Elizabeth. I
Okay.
personally feel there's too much glass on 73rd Street. I feel that the doors, all operable, should have divided lights. I see no reason why they shouldn't be divided lights. This is, after all, within a historic district. The building has a unique quality on that corner. I appreciate what the applicant's trying to do, but I cannot vote for this application without divided lights on those, on the glass. I don't mind all the glass, but it's too much glass, and the divided lights would soften it and give it some context within the historic district. I'm probably the only person here who doesn't mind the extension over the old Farrow and Ball store being stucco. I think it's nice that Landmarks wants to see some kind of differentiation. At the moment, however, I'm opposed to the application as it stands. Thank you. Now we can go to Elizabeth.
Okay,
And
Elizabeth,
anybody else who
star
wants
six.
to comment.
Okay.
Yeah. On second looking at this building, I'm opposed to the infill in its entirety. When I looked at the picture of that area, it makes the shape of the building was a bit interesting. This has taken the interest away. It has also taken away the nice little fencing that was on the top of the second floor windows, and I think it robbed it of texture up there. It's pretty uninteresting above the second floor, and I think that this removed interest, and I think the stucco is a horrible idea, but anyway, I just thought I'd mention that I can't support either.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate what you said, and it makes me think the extension shouldn't be there at all. I think we're ready for a vote on this. Does somebody want to formulate a resolution? No one?
Oh, okay.
We have a raised
And-
hand from Marco.
Marco.
Thank you. I would like to put a motion to disapprove as presented. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second,
I think we can go to a vote. Saida?
Okay, just give me 1 second to make sure everyone is unmuted. And let me share my screen. Okay, Elizabeth,
Yes,
Gail,
Yes,
Michelle,
Yes.
Alita,
Yes.
Anthony,
yes.
May,
Yes.
May, did you want to speak? We couldn't connect with you before.
No, I'm okay. I'm having terrible reception, but that's a yes for disapproval.
Okay, thank you.
okay. Marco,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Kimberly,
Yes.
okay, and David,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
okay. We have a disapproval.
Thank you very much. I hope you'll, we appreciated what you're trying to do, but it's just too much glass.
Well, we will speak to the client. I mean, it's a little bit more percentage-wise than what was there before. I think if we can start maybe splitting it up and breaking some of the glass up, like use some of the breakup that we had from up the second floor, maybe bring some of that down below, and then make some of them not full drop base. We'll see what we can come up with, and we will try to come back to you with that, and hopefully maybe we'll do a study percentage-wise, class-wise of what we have.
Well,
existing
I
versus
certainly
proposed.
appreciate your open-mindedness to all of our comments. It really is unusual sometimes from the applicant. So thank you very much.
Well, we received feedback from the tenant and from the building owner. We have to try to give them what they've requested, based upon your comments. We'll go back, we'll speak with them and say, hey, if we want this to really work out for everybody, we have to, sharpen our pencils, see what we can come up with. So we appreciate the comments that you provided.
Thank you so much.
Jane, we have a raised hand from Alita.
Oh, Alita?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I voted no aesthetically and that it doesn't seem appropriate for landmarks, but I have to say that for me, it's very hard to differentiate or to completely separate out the issues with the restaurant program from the aesthetics, particularly.
Well, Alita, we've already voted on the resolution.
I know, I was just explaining.
You
and
don't
that
need to explain your vote. We voted on the resolution. We're moving on to the next application.
Okey-doke.
We can't all explain our votes, Alita. So we're going to move on to the next application, which is 15 East 91st Street.
Thank you for your time and have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, Mary.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for hearing our presentation. I'm going to share screen now so we can just look at it.
I didn't say what it was yet, but I appreciate your.
I'm sorry, Jane.
That's okay. It's cute. I didn't mean to cut Alita off, but if we all explained our votes, we could be here all night.
Jane, I totally agree with you.
We've already voted. We heard from each member of the committee, etc. Thank you, David. So we're moving on to 15 East 91st Street, the expanded Carnegie Hill Historic District. And is the architect here as well? I'm not, Oleg.
Avi Zikri.
So you're going to make the presentation for the applicant?
And Avi will be here to answer questions. If you could unmute him, that would be great.
Great. Okay. So this is, I'm assuming, a single apartment where we're renovating some of the elements that are within the historic district on that beautiful, beautiful corner at the end of a beautiful block of historic individual landmarks. So please go ahead.
I'm going to share screen. And that is, okay. View. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. As you just mentioned, 15 East 91st Street is at the corner of Madison Avenue. The building was built in 1946-47 and designed in the modern style by Leonard Schultz and Associates. He was previously Schultz and Weaver. The building was built with balconies with streamlined railings. They weren't closed over the years, but there are some still remaining. There is a window master plan that was approved in 1994 for the building, but the balconies and the balcony windows were not included in that master plan. We're going to be looking here. This is the apartment that's involved with this. It's a proposal to restore a balcony terrace and restore the balcony and add windows and doors, at the terrace, and also add 2 walls on the interior that end at the window mullions. That's something that can't be approved at staff level. So the first thing we're going to look at is the wall issue. The walls are completely hidden by the mullions. So we're asking for approval for that. It's a very close up. This is a close up.
I'm not sure, Mary, can I just interrupt you for a
Yes.
second? The previous slide that you showed us, that the west window showing no visibility and the other window, could you just briefly explain why it's important for us to see those windows?
Okay, you want to stay on this slide or the next one?
The next one, which showed the two individual, those two windows.
These can't be approved at staff level.
Those 2 windows.
Not the windows. In each of these, this is one window. This is another window.
Right.
At each of these windows, there is a wall that comes right up to the window.
Yes, the brick wall that is the air conditioning unit.
And you can't see the wall. The mullion hides the wall. At staff level, you could still have the wall, but it would have to be set back.
Do you have a pointer? I'm so confused because I see the window. I see the air conditioning. Oh, good. That's perfect. The mullion hides what?
The wall.
The wall. There's a wall behind the mullion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And here.
Thank you. Now I get it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So that's why it's a public hearing.
It's even more of a mystery to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
A lot of times this will happen at a storefront where you see the wall right at the storefront and it's very unsightly. In this case, that isn't the case. But
right, because the wall's behind the mullion. Okay.
This is the corner of Madison, and there are some open balconies, and this is one. Gives you an idea of maybe a little bit like what it might have looked like originally. Here's the plan. This is the existing. These are the. Let me go to the proposed. These are the walls in question that go directly to the window. And here is the terrace that's going to be open again. Here's the elevation, existing and proposed. The balcony, the balcony rail will match the existing originals, and it will be that same color, that kind of a silver color. At the terrace, which is at the facade, these are the new windows, and they match the proportions of the original windows because there was a wall, a knee wall still existing on the inside where we could get that dimension. It's 3 feet 6 inches. So the side windows are going to be, all the windows are in the same proportion. The difference being that instead of a big center window, there are going to be 2 doors. It's limited visibility from the street.
Because there are 2 rooms behind each door.
Well,
that
the main
right?
reason there's limited visibility from the street is that it's just street. It's not like the corner. It's 91st Street, so you can go back just so far. And you just don't. And the balcony is set back at the facade. So right now it's enclosed and you see the windows easily, but the windows now are going to be here and they're set back. But so the balcony is blocking the view. I'm going to show you a rendering. So this is existing and this is the proposed. And then that's about that's where you could see it the most. And this is existing and proposed, where you really can't see the windows at all. I know that there are a lot of enclosed balconies on this building, and Landmarks has approved them. But Landmarks also approves restoring balconies. And it's really their policy. And you see that in window replacement, for example, in the staff rule, the rules for staff level permits. They don't want you to go back to an existing window if it doesn't look like the original. They want you to go back to the original. So we're trying to go back to the original here and taking the long view, which Landmarks does, and I think your committee does. Maybe, and people are seeing the value of their balconies again, and we'll see a lot more of these restored balconies in the future. That is our proposal.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, we have one raised hand from Lo.
Great.
Lo, confirm and muting.
Yes, my name is Lo Vandervalk. I'm speaking on behalf of Carnegie Hill Neighbors. Saida, did you get my email? Can you?
I did. I have it ready. Just
are you able to upload?
I am. Can everyone see this?
Yeah, I think that looks good.
Okay.
This is the line, yes, and the 4th floor would be. I marked the floors in red to the right of where the balcony would be open, and it's the 4th floor where the enclosed balcony would be opened. But if you look at the entire line and make it possibly smaller, then those 8 floors of balconies that have been enclosed with windows form a unity. And I'm afraid that if you introduce the open balcony onto the 4th floor, then you create kind of a hodgepodge effect. And if you go to the next slide and you look at the corner of Madison and 91st Street, that's the 2nd line of balconies. You'll see that at the 9th and 10th floor, the balconies have been opened, and they sort of mirror what's on the 11th floor, which probably was always open, because that's I can't speak to what probably will happen, but that's a recessed. And so that forms part of a penthouse. But 9 and 10 are are open, as Mary has said. There were open balconies elsewhere in the building, and these are the two most prominent ones. But if you look at the 8th floor on the corner there, and all the floors down to the first, well, it's the 2nd floor where they first appear, none of them are open. So they do form a unity. And so 8th floor here and 8th floor on the other side are really matching. So there really is a symmetry existing today in that building in terms of enclosed or unenclosed balconies in those two lines. Saida, can you go back to the first picture? My final point is that this apartment building borders or is the neighbor of the Trevor House, which is an individual landmark designed by Trowbridge and Livingston, and it on the property that was bought from Andrew Carnegie by Mr. Trevor. And so an open window, an open balcony at the 4th floor will sort of call attention to itself. And I think it will diminish the visual that is now presented by both buildings, and especially the landmark building. So I hope that, I can't believe that the Landmarks Commission will approve this, but that's not for me to say, of course. But we cannot, Carnegie Hill neighbors cannot approve this. Thank you.
If I could answer, not all of the windows are the same on the balcony, so that there isn't quite the uniformity that Lo is talking about. And the top of that 91st Street row is open with that typical modern railing. So it would echo that top. And I find it hard to believe that it's sort of like those apartment buildings on 5th Avenue that have all the single paned windows. For example, even though say they're 75% single pane windows, Landmarks has not approved new single pane windows just for the uniformity. So I think that going back to the original, even if it takes some time, is a reasonable approach over uniformity.
Thank you, Mary. We're going to go. Is there anyone else from the public there, Saida?
Yes, we have a raised hand from Friends of the Upper East Side. Confirm unmuting.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Laura representing Friends of the Upper East Side Historic Districts. I have a quick question for Mary. I may have misunderstood, but at the end of your presentation, you said that staff could approve the returning of the balconies if it was the original one. So if that is the case, why are we seeing this part of the application?
Oh, two reasons. There's no the windows, the proposed windows need to go to public hearing, and because there have been enclosed balconies that have been previously approved at public hearing, their attorney felt that this needed to go before the commission because it was a change from what they had previously approved.
All right, thank you.
Nobody has actually gone, applied for this. Opening.
No one has applied to restore a balcony.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Marco?
Thank you, Jane. I would like to ask a question, Mary. What floor is this proposal? I'm a little bit confused.
4.
4. Okay, so the change that you are planning to do is on the 4. It's gonna break the continuity of some section, of the lower section, I should say.
Right, of the alterations.
So, but that is original. And from the point of view of aesthetics, I mean, personally myself, I like it, and I would like to see these balconies. It makes more sense. But from the point of view of sustainability, probably not. But in this case, we are not judging in that direction. Now, on the side street, that is a different point because now you have a, almost full continuity on flat facade. That's what it is. Uh, Create a balcony, give you more texture or more break the continuity of the flat building. And I think that part I'm a little bit conflicted myself with either to accept or not. But on the main facade, I'm 100% with you. And I think that's the yeah. And also you try to bring the to match, except the center window. You want to divide it into parts. I think it's just only to make operable or something like that. But I think it's that approach, I like it, and the other one I'm not sure yet. Thank you.
Hey, May, confirm unmuting.
I have no comment. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anthony, confirm unmuting.
Okay, hi. Hi, good evening. I wish we had in your packet an original drawing of that facade. And the reason for that, the reason I wish that, and probably the same reason Kim is nodding, is that now I have to ask some questions. That whole line from 3, I guess, up to 8 were all balconies originally?
Yeah, the things that are balconies in those 2 areas were all, none of them was enclosed. They all had that streamlined rail, and it would have had a different look.
Yes, and I think I would have preferred it to the sort of Florida room look that it has now. I'm less bothered by the interruption of the corrupted facade, I think, than certainly than Lowe is. And I don't see any reason, in fact, I don't see any reason not to support this. And certainly the bedroom walls actually reaching the outside wall of the building will also be a marked improvement. So I would be in favor of this proposal. Thanks.
Thank you. Alita, confirm unmuting.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm going to have to go along with what Lo said here, and I find it would interrupt it. And also, I don't understand, Mary, when you said the windows have limited visibility from the street, you're talking about the windows going onto the terrace if that were approved?
Yes.
So what do you mean exactly by limited visibility?
They're harder to see because the balcony's in the way.
But where are they seen?
They're seen from the street, but just the top part.
I see. Okay. And also, Jane, I wasn't trying to explain my vote. I had another comment, but it's pointless now. So, but thank you for the presentation, Mary.
Michelle, confirm unmuting.
Yeah, I'm actually happy to see that this enclosure will be returned to an open balcony. I wish those balconies were not permitted to be enclosed. To me, it never made any sense. It turned an interior room that had outside windows, it turned them into interior rooms. What I'm trying to understand is, did the interior room go all the way to the window on the newly enclosed balcony? And is that the wall that you're talking about to move it back so it becomes the end wall of the room?
No, that was.
Is that what you mean? Am I understanding?
It was, excuse me for being confusing. There was a remnant of a wall from the original terrace that is being removed, and that was at where the terrace began and the building wall ended. The reason I brought it up was because we're replicating that dimension, but that wall isn't going to be there anymore. The terrace will be, the balcony and the terrace will be open, and the windows are going to be where they always were, at the facade.
Okay, and you also said though, but you want to put 2 doors.
Yeah.
Did you say that?
Yeah, instead of one big window.
So is the reason that you want 2 doors as opposed to 1 door leading out to a terrace, is that because there are 2 rooms that border on this terrace, and so each of them will have a door to the terrace?
I think it's for no, not. It'll be a nicer terrace with a bigger opening. That's really what it is. Otherwise, it's
Here's what I don't understand. I'm just not getting it. I'm happy about the terrace. I'm happy for it to be restored to an open terrace. And therefore, it will go back to the original terrace doors and windows that appeared on open terraces. But in this case, you don't want that to happen. Instead, you want to put 2 doors instead of windows and doors. So these 2 doors are going to be side by side leading to the same interior room?
right. It's
Mary, if I
instead
may.
of one big window, there's just double doors.
Oh, double doors, not
Yeah.
2 doors.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, okay. 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 You understand why I was
Yep. Sorry.
thinking 2 separate doors. Okay. So they're just 2 double doors that are opening out, as
Mhm.
opposed to originally there was a single door and a window. That's what you're
Yeah,
saying.
and another window. Yeah.
And another window.
Mm.
Okay. All right. I got that. I could live with that. What I also need some clarification on is in the very, very, very beginning, you showed a picture of 2 individual windows, and you mentioned that the lintel was covering with the window. Jane questioned you on it. I have to say, I don't know where those windows are, and I don't understand what you were referring to. I'm sorry, Mary.
Yeah.
Can you just,
Michelle,
is
no,
that a
it's my
separate
fault.
issue?
It's a separate issue. They they're creating an extra room, and because their family is growing, and they are putting in 2 new walls, and those walls are going to the window. That is something that can't be approved at staff level. In this instance, those walls are hidden by the window mullion.
You could say that they're perpendicular to the window mullion.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a right
But they're
angle.
inside. You're talking
They're
about
inside.
interior walls.
But in
So
this
how
case,
does
it's
that-
not staff level approval.
Okay, but here's what I don't get. If it's I'm not understanding. If it's an interior wall, each of those walls will be perpendicular and have a window on either side of it on the interior, so that a window services each of those rooms. Is that correct?
That's correct, but it's
What's the
visually it's
effect
one
on
window.
the outside?
The reason it doesn't fall into staff level approval is that the walls are coming to a window. Landmark staff is considering that grouping one window.
So what are you going to do with those windows?
Well, they're going to use them. The windows are new, just by the way. They were.
These 2 windows are original windows?
No, they're new. They were installed under the master plan.
So the window is under the master plan, or the window opening?
Oh, the actual windows are new. They were under the master plan, but the 2 walls that were built go right up to the window, and that's something that can't be approved at staff level. It has to come to a public.
No, I
hearing.
get what you're saying. I'm sorry for taking all this time, but I don't get what the inside of the room has to do with the look of these two outside windows. That's what I'm not getting. I get that you're dividing a room, but what is the staff going to look at? If somebody else of my colleagues can explain this.
Why don't we let David Halpern try to explain it? It's
I'm
too bad
just
there
not
isn't a
getting
better
it.
diagram for us to see, where you'd see where the wall comes to the window lintel.
I think, yeah, and I think Jane explained it very well. These new walls are perpendicular to the outside of the building. And because they're making 3 rooms out of 2 rooms, these walls can't meet the masonry. These walls have to meet mullions, vertical mullions within the windows. And because these walls are meeting vertical mullions within the windows, it has to be approved at staff level. Is that clear?
Only if it's visible to the outside. That's what
It
I'm
is
not
visible
getting.
to the outside when you look through the window, and Landmarks has the right to consider what you see through a window.
So even though it is all happening on the inside, it will be visible looking in, even though it's on the 4th floor. Okay.
Except when they put the blinds down, or the fact of the matter is that it's going to be very hard to see in any event. But
That's what it sounds like to me.
But being
It sounds like it's a
Michelle,
lot of much ado about nothing. But anyway, I can support this is the bottom line. Thank you.
I'm just being technical, and you know you're
Well, I'm
entitled
glad
to
you
your,
were, because I wasn't understanding. So thank you.
You're entitled to your opinion about much ado.
Okay, we're going to go to Gail. Gail, confirm unmuting.
Thank you. Well, I like the idea of going back to the original terrace, because we've lost so much with the way in which buildings have been altered. I am curious, however, just on the balcony, when we look at the door and we look at the windows, how similar will that be to what was originally part of the facade, Mary?
It will be, the proportions will be the same. The one difference will be that instead of one really big fixed window in the center, it will be double doors.
The double doors. Okay, that, does kind of make sense to me.
I think you said French doors, Mary. It would be more understandable to all of us ignorant non-architects. French doors.
Pair of doors.
I had another question also. I commend the building for having a window master plan. We would certainly hope that all the buildings along Fifth and Park with the missing teeth, had one as well. Are you aware of whether or not the building has encouraged any of the shareholders to consider replacing their enclosed balconies with the open balcony the way the balconies were originally designed?
I don't know. Laura, do you want to answer that?
Just curious.
Saida, if you would unmute Laura Fitzpatrick.
Okay, confirm unmuting, Laura.
She may not, she may be having issues.
That's okay. I was just curious.
Anyway, I doubt it, but I really don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Wishful thinking, Gail.
Yes, I think it would be wonderful.
Okay, Elizabeth?
Yes, I always like going back to the original. And I think it's unfortunate that it would interrupt some sort of uniformity, but I've never been a fan of uniformly inappropriate additions. So I think I could support this, and I would follow Gail, and I would ask that the building develop a master plan of restoring the original balconies. And I think anything one can do to help this building, it was certainly not a thing of beauty and a joy forever, and it's built in the most terrible time of building apartment buildings. But anyway, maybe this moving back to the original would be a good idea, so that I can support this.
Okay. Kimberly, confirm unmuting.
Thank you. Gail took my question about the master plan for the balconies. But aside from that, I think I can support this again to echo what Elizabeth was saying for the going back to the original as opposed to the uniformity. Thank you.
Christina, confirm unmuting, star 6.
This is Christina. I have no questions and I can support it.
Okay.
Oh, Saida, maybe I'll speak before David, who's always so eloquent. I totally support this. I feel funny because I usually am totally in favor of whatever Carnegie Hill Neighbors decides to do. It's their backyard. But gosh, that building is those balconies, and having them removed any sense of distinction from that entire building. Those wonderful modern railings were just what gave some distinction to that building on that really outstanding corner within Carnegie Hill. So I'm all in favor of it. Mary, just one comment. Maybe a diagram of that perpendicular wall with the mullion would have helped.
A bigger plan would probably help.
Sorry, I'm gonna go.
Well,
Need some water, David.
Jane, you were so elegant. I have nothing to add except that I like to see balconies removed. They've been added inappropriately, which is the case here. So looking for the long run, it's the right thing to do.
Does someone want to propose a resolution?
I think Kimberly wants to do that.
Okay.
Second.
Could be.
Oh,
Now I
sorry,
can-
you're.
That was a long
Get
build up just to say
resolution.
motion to approve.
Thank you, Kimberly. And Kimberly, I love the sign behind you, New York or nowhere. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Anthony. So we can go to a vote.
Okay, give me 1 second. All right, reverse order. Marco?
Yes.
May?
Yes.
Anthony?
Yes.
Alita?
I listened to my colleagues, so I'm going to vote yes.
Michelle? Okay, Michelle?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
Christina? Star 6, Christina.
Yes, my vote is yes.
Thank you. And Jane?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Okay, we have 11 yes.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks,
you.
Mary.
The next item is 1083 Fifth Avenue. The Kovic Connolly Architects, the Beaux-Arts style townhouse designed by Turner and Killiam and built in 1901-02. Application is to extend the elevator bulkhead. Is the applicant here?
Yes. Brian, confirm unmuting?
Unmuted, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we
And I'd
see
like to
you?
bring up a share screen as well.
You should have the ability.
Can you see that?
Not yet.
No.
Are you seeing it?
No, we're not.
Can you please give me the name of the presenter?
This
Brian
is Brian
Connolly?
Connolly.
Brian Connolly, thank you. I see who you are. Thank you.
That was a very good buy.
Are you able to share your screen, Brian? Okay, there you go.
Are you seeing the drawings now?
Yes, you just have to make it larger for us.
Okay, all right. Okay, so this proposal is for a elevator bulkhead extension on the secondary facade at 1083 Fifth Avenue. The house was originally designed by Turner and Killian back in 1901, 1902, but it was subsequently remodeled by Ogden Codman in 1913, 1915. The building was once part of a 3-building campus that I'm sure you're aware of for the National Academy of Design. It included 1083 Fifth Avenue, it included 3 East 89th Street and 5-7 East 89th Street. The 3 buildings were recently sold to individual owners and physically separated. So this current application is about the 1083 property only, which is the one on the photograph on the left of your screen. The current owner who purchased 1083, he's converting it back to its original intended use as a single-family residence. While this particular application is for the elevator bulkhead extension only, I'd like to just point out that it's part of a wider rehabilitation plan for the building that includes complete exterior restoration of limestone, brick, mansard, slate roofs. And the restoration is not only on the primary facade, it's on the secondary facades and even on the tertiary facades, which are not seen from either Fifth Avenue or the 89th Street. But the eastern elevations have been fully restored as well. The total package of work that's been approved under other applications include replacement of historical windows with new windows that match the historical profiles exactly. We'll eventually be removing the National Academy of Design advertising banners on the Fifth Avenue facade, and separately the commercial storefront that National Academy of Design added to the first floor will be replaced with windows and doors that match Ogden Codman's original design. And as I say, this particular proposal is should be seen perhaps in that larger context of a substantial building renovation. I would add that the proposed elevator bulkhead extension is not visible over the primary facade. It is periodically visible, but only intermittently in an episodic way from a short portion of Fifth Avenue near Engineers Gate and for a short portion of the Central Park Reservoir running track. And even in the areas where it's marginally visible, a lot of the visibility depends on the extent of foliage in Central Park at that time. I'm going to move on to another page. Okay. If you look at the photograph on the extreme left, that's the building as it now stands. This was the last of 4 row houses starting at East 89th Street. When this one was built, it was not known what would be beside it. And certainly it probably wasn't anticipated that it would be a church with a view corridor down there. So the northern facade, which is the secondary facade over which the elevator bulkhead will be visible, was really never intended to be seen. It was more likely that when 1083 was built, they expected further row houses, but that doesn't happen. So we end up with a very minor facade that was not originally intended to be seen. If you look up at the very top where my cursor is, at some point, National Academy of Design modified an existing stair and elevator bulkhead when they put a fire stair into the building. And they clad the exterior of that in white stucco, which was a material that was completely alien to the material building palette. And what the white stucco did was it drew unwarranted attention to probably the least important feature on the entire building. So what our proposal seeks to do, in addition to extending the elevator bulkhead, but not the stair bulkhead, we'd like to remove the white stucco to tune out and not draw attention to a feature on the secondary facade of the building. So our proposed design as such is to extend the elevator bulkhead, but our design approach was to try and keep the bulkhead volume as small as possible while still providing a code compliant override and refuge space at the top of the elevator shaft. And out of respect for Codman's design, we wanted to keep the form of the elevator bulkhead as simple as possible. We didn't want to include any architectural embellishments whatsoever. We didn't want to use limestone coping, anything that would draw attention to it as a let's say, feature rather than a utilitarian component on a side elevation. In terms of material, it's proposed to extend the bulkhead using salvage bricks that were kept when the light well, which you'll see over on the left-hand photograph, when that light well was demolished and filled in with Landmark's approval, we salvaged the bricks, some of which will be blended in with new bricks on the elevator bulkhead. And overall, our approach was to avoid any formal complexity or use of contrasting materials, such that an architecturally unimportant feature would ever compete with the front facade, which was the only component of the building that we assume Codman expected to be seen. In terms of, let's say, objective things, the additional volume is 551 cubic feet, and it represents about barely 0.25% of the whole building. So in terms of new volume, it's extremely slight. And in that context, if I could just go back to the previous sheet, you may remember that when 1083 was physically joined to 3 East 89th Street, there used to be an unsightly bridge that was added over the rotunda, and it was visible from 89th Street. As part of the previous application, that unsightly bridge was removed. So in a way, we've removed more objectionable material than we would be looking to add in terms of a new blended in bulkhead now. Okay, so. These drawings show the existing and proposed conditions. The two drawings on the left show the original building, and they also show a rooftop addition that was approved by Landmarks at staff level. If I move over towards the right, up here where my cursor is, that would be the new elevator bulkhead. It's not visible over the Fifth Avenue facade. We'll show you the sight lines for that and photographs as well. And here on the side elevations, where my cursor is now on the left-hand drawing, that's the modified bulkhead that was changed at some point during National Academy of Design's use of the building. And by coating it in the white stucco that you see here, it draws attention to itself in a way that we felt was inappropriate on a secondary facade and at the top of the building in that location. Our proposal here on the right is to restore the brickwork. You can see there where my cursor is, to restore that brickwork with salvage brick. And then where we increase the elevator bulkhead here, to also use a blended mix of new brick and salvage brick, but one which we think will hopefully tune out entirely. And I'll show you some examples of work that we've done where we filled in this light well here using that approach to the brickwork. Here on these slides, the figure on the left is the existing building as it stands or has been approved, including the small penthouse addition that's been approved by Landmarks over here. The area we're talking about now is this blue cube just directly above the existing stair bulkhead. Okay. And here on the photograph on the left, it illustrates our approach to match the brickwork on the existing north facade. And by doing so, there's no longer a bright object that draws your eye to it. And we would extend the bulkhead in the same material. So if I go back to the second page, I think the real comparison is what we see over here on the left, where there's a volume that draws attention to itself with the stucco bulkhead. And then go back to our current proposal here on this sheet, where something that was architecturally insignificant drew your eye. Now we think something that's architecturally insignificant tunes out entirely. Photographs show the direct view of the facade as it stands now, and the 3D model on the right. It's not possible to see either the existing bulkhead or the extended bulkhead. These views are the same from further down Fifth Avenue opposite 1080, the apartment building. Looking over the primary facade, there's no evidence of the existing bulkhead or any other structure. And in our 3D model over here on the right, that confirms the same, that the volume is not shown. This drawing shows the proposed work area up close. And this existing bulkhead, where my cursor is over on the left side of the drawing, that's the area we'd like to remove the stucco to enhance the recedingness of that structure, and then merely continue it up another 7 feet for the bulkhead overrun. And then here's a series of views and 3D models. There's a very short location near Engineers Gate, and again on the reservoir running track, where the proposed bulkhead extension is intermittently visible, but there's no area where it's continuously visible over a stretch. A lot of the intermittentness is a function of the trees, the branches, and the degree of foliage that where there's occasionally a glimpse of it, it disappears again shortly afterwards. And in the photographs of the mock-up, we'll point out that the visibility is largely due to the bright orange netting on it right now. If it wasn't for that, it would probably not be noticeable at all. Over here in this middle drawing, the upper middle drawing, you can see the volume that's visible in the model. And likewise, if you move a few steps away, it becomes partially visible because the view corridor between 1083 and the church is very, very slight. This drawing shows the sightline from across Fifth Avenue, and you can see that the elevator bulkhead here is nowhere near the sightline, not even close. And finally, a series of views taken in the park and across the street. In this photograph on the left-hand side, you can just see a portion of the orange netting on the mock-up at that location. A couple of feet either east or west, the trunk of the tree would start to block it out, or the next tree would do the same. Moving further into the park at Engineers Gate, on the north side of Engineers Gate, the sightlines are such that the not only is the new bulkhead extension not visible, but the former bulkhead and stair elevation is not visible either. You move to the south side, and then you start to get a glimpse of the elevator, the proposed elevator bulkhead extension. Moving into the park on the steps going up to the ramp, there's a portion of it visible just above my cursor there. You move a few steps further south and you start to see the elevator bulkhead above the foliage. Moving up to the Central Park Reservoir running track itself, on the northern part at the top of the ramp, the bulkhead is not visible at all just because of a particular tree that's in that position. If you move on to the viewing platform, in the middle of the two ramps, you start to see the bulkhead whole, or at least when the foliage is slim like it is here. You move further down, there's a tiny little portion of it, but not the whole bulkhead at that point. This last slide here, it shows a mixture of existing bricks in the lower portion of the top photograph. New bricks, which we got a special blend made up above those. The lower photograph on the left is a mixture of new and existing bricks. And the photograph of the assembly here in the middle of the sheet, that's an example of the way the light well was filled in, blending salvage bricks and new bricks. That's what we're proposing for both the existing bulkhead restoration and the extended bulkhead above. So if I was to just recap on what we're trying to do here, the overarching thing is to make a feature that was never intended to be seen as minimally visible as we can through keeping its size as small as possible. When we designed the elevator bulkhead, the roof on it is going to have a metal edge gravel stop, which is only a few inches above the roof rather than a parapet, which would be 18 to 20 inches taller and probably have architectural embellishment like a coping on it. We wanted to minimize any feature like that. We wanted to minimize the size. We wanted to minimize the differentiation between the north wall below. So by basically avoiding formal complexity or by using contrasting materials, an architecturally unimportant feature on a secondary facade hopefully recedes and doesn't draw attention to itself. And hopefully, in fact, it draws less attention than the situation that's there at the moment.
Thank you for a very clear and excellent presentation. And do we have anybody from the public who wants to comment?
We don't have any raised hands from the public, but Michelle has had her hand raised for a while. Oh, okay. Lo Vandervalk. Lo, confirm unmuting.
Unmute?
Yep,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Good. My name is Lo Vandervalk. I'm representing Carnegie Hill Neighbors. I have perhaps two questions, and that is so our understanding now is that the materials used for the existing staircase bulkhead and the newly proposed elevator bulkhead will be compatible or even of the same type of materials as the rest of that facade? That's a question for Brian.
Yes, there was a light well which was demolished, a three-sided light well which was demolished and filled in. On the screen, as you see it now, the lower arrow where my cursor is, that's showing where the light well was. So we salvaged all the brick from all three sides of that. We only needed about 1/3 of those to fill in the light well, which was done under a separate application. So there's other salvage bricks left over, and we're mixing those in with new bricks, basically making a blended mix, which if I go back to the very last sheet, give me 1 second here. It's about as close as we could get to finding a mix that would be all original bricks. But fortunately, the bricks were very variegated, so it gave a tremendous amount of opportunity to, it was very forgiving in terms of allowing the new work to meet work which was itself varied. If you look at the top left-hand picture here showing the existing bricks where my cursor is on the lower section, some were darker than others, some were reddish, some were pinkish, some were brown. It's a very forgiving mixture to work with in a way that a uniform brick would not have allowed.
Okay, so the overall color of the upper portions, if you will, the bulkheads, will be roughly the same as the existing wall.
Correct, and I think particularly given at that height, even if there was modest variation, you wouldn't detect it from the street.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is, the elevator bulkhead rises 5 feet above the stair bulkhead?
No, I think it's about 7'3".
Oh, 7'3". Has
Yeah,
there been?
there's
Pardon?
the code required refuge zone above the top of the elevator cab. Then we have steel beams plus the pulley wheels and so on, and then plus the roof structure itself.
So given the technology you're using, there's no way to lower this.
No, the refuge area is prescribed by code. When people are working on the elevator shaft or the cables, they often ride the top of the car. So there has to be a refuge space in case the car was sent up accidentally. And I believe that's about 4'9". Then there's the pulley space, the beams that hold the shift pulleys, the roof structure, and a slight curb edge. So as I say, we avoided the use of parapets or anything that would increase the height of the visible structure above the finished roof. And we're at about 7'2", 7'3" at the moment.
Okay. Well, I'll offer an opinion here if I can risk it. Then that is we're sympathetic to what you're trying to do, and we recognize that it is part of a larger plan, and that you have pulled away certain rooftop additions that are visible to the neighbors, certainly in the apartment building 1080, but might be slightly visible from the street from 89th Street. But in any case, we understand that you've made great efforts to make this building, to renovate this building in a way that makes it look better. And also, we recognize that that this addition is on a secondary facade, and that it is set back, I think, some 50 feet from the street, and that there are times when you can't see it at all. But because of the coloring of the bricks, and because we do expect some kind of rooftop additions above secondary facades, more likely than primary facades, and you've been very careful in protecting the roof line of the primary facade. So we're quite sympathetic to what you're trying to do, and we can approve this. And I want to thank you for this application. That's our time.
And I'd add separately is that the current owner is also, although it doesn't fall under Landmark's jurisdiction, they were very excited to know that he's restoring Codman's stair hall at the rear of the building, and several of Codman's interior rooms will be replicated exactly.
Anybody else from the public? Say
No other raised hands from the public.
okay, so I think we start with Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, confirm a meeting.
I think that this is a very sensible, sorry, my dog is barking her fool head off, a very sensible, very sensitive way, almost invisible from everywhere. So I certainly can approve this.
Aida, if you just run it to alphabetically, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gail?
I
Please.
agree with, I'm sorry, Elizabeth, have you finished? I agree with Elizabeth's comments. I can certainly support this. It was an excellent presentation and showed a lot of sensitivity. And since I live a half a block away, I'm particularly pleased that you ended up with the alteration the way you did. Thank you.
Okay. Michelle, confirm a meeting.
Yeah, this looks
Michelle?
fine to me. Just you gave us cubic. Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear
Yes.
you now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. No, this looks fine to me. I got your cubic measurement and I got one measurement, but what's the overall measurement of this bulkhead, of this elevator bulkhead?
It was 551 cubic feet. I believe it's about 6 by 8 by about 8 feet high approximately. I don't actually have the numbers off the hand, but it's the approximate size. And as I say, it's definitely 551 cubic feet and
That's all
about,
right. That's close enough. It's fine with me.
about 0.25% of the overall building volume.
Yep, I got that. Thank you.
Okay. 1 second. Alita, you're going to be next. Confirm unmuting.
Thank you. I approve and am grateful for your sensitivity to the history and the architecture and the concern for integrity. At the risk of being deemed unruly, though, I'm wondering if the owner would consider removing those flags sooner rather than later. And thank you.
The advertising banners for National Academy of Design will be removed.
Right, I know you said that. I was just commenting on time, but I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
Saida, are you calling out next?
Saida just told me she lost audio, so that was Alita. So we're gonna move to, I'm so sorry, Anthony. So Anthony, you're gonna get a chance to unmute in 1 second.
Wow, all of that. This is fine. I think it's too bad we have elevators, but I think it's just as well that we do. So this is certainly a very sensitive way of incorporating the elevator bulkhead. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Anthony. We'll move to May Malik next. Who I'm not seeing anymore in the meeting, so she may have left. And then we'll move to Marco. Marco, go ahead.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, David. I think I'm going to make echo what David said. I think it was an excellent presentation verbally. Very, very well presented. I mean, and your effort to hide, to camouflage this extension, I think is global. And I think I'm not going to say anything more, just I'm going to say yes, I will support this application. And thank you. By the way, David, as soon as I make the votes, I'm going to leave because I have to do something in my case. Thank you.
But do you want us to put you in as a yes?
No, I will vote. I will vote and then I will elect. Thank you.
Okay. Unless Kimberly rejoined, I guess we'll move to Christina Davis. Christina, star 6.
Yes, thank you. I vote yes, and please thank the owners for their stewardship of this building. It's much appreciated in our historic neighborhood. Thank you.
I'm going to go back to May. I see she's rejoined. May, you can unmute if you have questions.
No questions, thank you.
And so the last person will be Kimberly. Oh, sorry, not the last, because David and Jane.
I'll keep this brief. I agree with some of the comments that my colleagues have stated. I can support this application.
Jane?
Oh, thank you. I just want to support what Christina said, that the owner's stewardship of the building is to be commended. Thank you.
And I'll only add that the architect's stewardship of the building is also to be commended. So I think we're ready for a vote if somebody would like to make a motion.
Okay, Alita raised her hand. Alita, confirming meeting.
I did, and move to approve.
We have a second.
Second.
Marco seconded. Okay.
Please call the roll, Will.
I have it. Well, I can pull it. Okay, wait, no, I lied. Just kidding.
Is someone calling the roll?
Yep, I have it. Elizabeth?
Elizabeth?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Gail?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Alita?
Yes.
Anthony?
Yes.
May? May?
Sorry, I was unmuted. Yes.
Okay. Marco?
Yes.
Okay. Christina? It's star 6 to unmute.
You have to unmute me. You have
Yep, you're
control
unmuted.
over my
There
mute.
you go. Yes, we got it.
Yes, vote.
And Kimberly?
Yes.
Okay. Jane?
Yes.
And David?
Yes.
Okay, we have 11 in favor.
Thank you, Saida. I just wanted to mention that Alita had sent an email to David and myself earlier in the day, noting with some images of some banners that have been hung from the windows of the Autocon Mansion, now Sacred Heart at 91st and Fifth Avenue. Did you want to speak to that, Alita?
I don't really have anything I could say. I think the picture is self-explanatory. I was stunned walking down 91st Street. They are hanging from every single window on 91st Street, big, bright, hot pink flags.
Well, we have asked, just so everyone knows, maybe Saida, I think you got the images. Maybe you could send them out to the members of the committee. I thought
Okay.
the first step might be to see what the Landmarks Commission guidelines are for the banners. They do say thank you on them, but I just thought we should start with the commission rather than the school, just to find out what the guidelines, I think they're pretty strict, aren't they, on banners, David?
Well, they have their guidelines. You just can't arbitrarily put a banner out. It's a school. I would certainly be interested in how long they expect to have those banners out. That might influence how we feel about it.
I was
If
surprised.
you want to put a banner on a building, there is a guideline. Yes.
So maybe that's the first step, and then we can, after we hear from Landmarks, we can get in touch with the school and see how long they want the banners to be there. I know every time I pass the banner in front of the Jewish Museum, I just can't even believe that got approved.
Well, I think that's a very different kind of an issue. It should
Exactly. No, I
never
agree
been
with you.
approved. If these kids are saying thank you for some reason, it's going to be out for a few days. Maybe it's just not a big deal. But if it's going to be there for a year, like the Jewish Museum, that's a whole different issue.
Exactly. Thank you for putting it so well. So maybe that's the first step, Saida, to find out from the commission if what's up for banner guidelines, and then we'll see what the school has to say.
Okay, sounds good. We'll follow up in email.
Thank you, David and Jane.
You're welcome.
Aida on that.
No problem.
Any other business, Jane?
Not that I know of.
Maybe we need a motion to end the meeting.
We have a raised hand from Michelle and Elizabeth.
And a
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I think we see a second from May, and a second from Elizabeth. Okay, I guess we're adjourned.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you at the full board meeting on Wednesday.